Hello. So I'm one of the noisy, angry Danes. Oh, Nelson is not here. He's sleeping. Sorry. Okay. Please remark if I'm not speaking loud enough, and I'm not holding the microphone here. So, okay. My name is Erik Skytthe. I'm working at what's named DBC. We handle the central applications for the libraries in Denmark. So we are kind of a public firm. Let's see here. Let's see how this works. Oh, don't work. Okay. I don't want to go into detail with that. Last year I was also making a presentation, and you can see that here. But we are maybe not like a lot of public firms. We are rather focused on open source software. So we make also our end system is today based on open source Solar and things like that. Actually, we have, for example, that's a CMS based on Drupal, and we make that together in a community local in Denmark. And actually, just now we are close to get the most of the libraries in Denmark running on this solution, which I think is a good thing. And will make a lot of troubles also, because you have a community and we will be depending on that. But that's how it is. It's not a big firm, not monitoring that many devices, so smaller firm here. So, yeah, all kind of infrastructure things. We have a huge space of self-developed applications. And some are very, very old, and even we have agents still running this version because we're running old Debian versions, Linux Debian. But today we mostly develop on Java, Drupal, Solar, Progress, and more standard things. We have a huge demand for application monitoring. That's what most we focus on, and my work is going to deal with. No projects so far, maybe later. My presentation here is actually trying to do, it's continuing the track that Tobias was telling of before. It's a try to do an answer on how we make it easier for our customers, our users to use Zabbix and set it up in a way so it's more easy to go around. It's a try to make an answer, but well, you can see and check out. Maybe you can use some of the things. Some of the things I will present today will not be very easy to maintain in larger installation, but I hope you will can use some of the things I have discovered. Before I was coming to this firm for 3 years ago. They were using Hobbit. Actually, they have an old Unicenter installation also, which was nearly dying. We were using some other open source tools. Actually, I'm still using pieces of Munin in my Zabbix monitoring today. The good thing about Munin is that they have a lot of small plugins. So if you need a special things, you can kind of, for example, make user parameters like this. There is this command, Munin run, and for example, it have a plugin which is named netstat, and you can just figure out the results from this. That's the nice things about. So if you have Munin on your machine, you can do like this to get the data in first. Yeah, see me. So this is the old, how it was look like. It's not totally killed yet, but it's well near to. So a lot of phases like this. Problem was that if we were getting a lot of alerts from Syslog, from Windows monitoring and things like, and you will not have overview in this, and it's mostly based on infrastructure monitoring. Here you can compare. There are not so many events anymore. So I was dealing it that way. Actually, we were running parallel for some times. The advantage of this was that you could kind of compare to get the same triggers in both systems. Of course, the disadvantage was that you have two systems to address, but I think that was okay. We were copying around 30% of triggers. It was really easy to get an overview in Linux because there was some central config files. Windows was more work because this was decentral config files, but we managed it. One of the main things I was doing in this transmission was lowering the amount of high triggers because there was too many, and people have not really. People have not really managed that system. It was just going for itself, and it needed some care. So a lot of the triggers I was just putting from high down to warning. What we also use, we only, like Tobias was saying, I think that's the main thing, try to make it really simple. Try to only look at the core things. And in that, for example, we only use information, warning, and high severities. Well, of course, we have some disasters sometimes. I have a few disaster triggers on SAN problems, for example. But, yeah. And there was this, because actually the infrastructure was monitoring well, I hate to say it, but this was okay monitoring by the infrastructure. So mostly in the start, I was forced to, no, not forced, but I was more looking into application monitoring, trending, which Zabbix are good to. And actually, last year I was giving a talk on that. So if you feel sleepy at night, you can go into that here. But that's the story about how we, with help of Zabbix, was solving 5 major problem in our production environment. In the period, still when I was running this Hobbit thing in parallel, I was extending the infrastructure monitoring. There wasn't any monitoring of VMware, SAN, and firewalls and syslog like that, so I was extending that. In that way, well, better look at the next slide. So the implementation was not from bottom to top, as I say. It was more like this and not non-linear. So it was more driven by factors like the main system. We have these main main problems and the importance of the systems. And also my colleagues, some people was kind of, well, we don't want this new tool. Others was really active and was going into this and also beginning making templates themselves. So that's also driving in it. Yeah, one of the thing I really love about Zabbix is the easy way to get data in. I worked with HP OpenUse, CI Unicenter, Thule, and other tools, and I have not seen how in this way how it is easy to get data in. That's really. Thanks for that. So we make a shift now. That was just a small talk about what we were doing for. one of the main thing I was discovering was it's important to have some kind of design, at least some small kind of design. And one of the most important thing is that you at least have you have a common understanding of the relationship with your applications. You're using the same terms. Even in our small firms, where we are not so many people are using different terms for the same systems. So I'll update your CMDB, or at least have a list of what you can agree on together. So, for example, we were making was having that into our CMDB. We was making this list out. So we have, for example, a main system, which could be operation, of course, which is infrastructure, and a server network, etc. We have a business system that could be front end, middleware, and back end, or whatever you call that. Because this is really important. I use this the implementation of the implementation of Zabbix are doing. I was using these names, these name patterns. Try to show it here. So some of the thing I was using, I will show you it later also in the presentations. But for all the main systems, I was making groups. I was giving the same names as for the groups. I was giving that to the screens and the maps. I made the presentation talk both about screens and maps in some common. So sometimes when I say a screen, it's a map, but I will use both. I will mostly use the word screen, even though it's only a map. That's just a note. Templates name, using the same name here. Item name, I will show that. So it's getting to using the same name and the order with main system and subsystem. It's getting easier to read your items and things like that. Using the names in service disk integration, in trigger names, descriptions, and host names. Also, for some of the main systems, I was making these stomach, or what I call a logical host, or for some of the systems, which was giving some meaning. Here I show that's one of the menu for screen names. So this is the main system, and that's a subsystem. So I use this naming convention through all the system, trying to make it easier to navigate through Zabbix that way. Search function, if you have a main system you have problem with, doing the search and you will get the templates name and the names of logical hosts, which have this main system name in it, and it's easier to navigate down to them. Trigger names, here again, I make a main system and a subsystem name here. So in this way, you can see already your address. Oh, this main system which have a problem. This subsystem, and here's a process systems down. We have our division in our group, infrastructure group, in Windows people and Linux people. So here we address the two groups who should take care of these triggers. And I'll also put a kind of subsystem name on here, actually. Lock, that's an error message. That's okay, you can read that. But I use this pattern here, main system, system, and message. I try at least to do it. Service, web service. This is a main system with no subsystem, so just an ordinary message. Yep, here I show how I'm using it item names also. So that's OS over monitoring, and that's the latest data I'm seeing here. but I used it, what you could call the subsystem again. I divided into disk, host, lock, memory, a port, processes. In this way, it's really easy to, it's grouped already when you go in and look at lots of data. It's rather fast to get an overview. What I was doing with templates names, I was divided into, I didn't put this template name in front of it. Instead, I was divided into numbered ordered. Well, you can do it in another way. Maybe it would have been better, actually. Actually, I'd use the numbered order, and I have the main system and subsystem here also. But doing so, all OS things always have to do with infrastructure and OS. They have the number 1. Then we'll get up to some number, and it has number 1 and 2. And when you get to 3, it's databases and things like that. Going up to some applications, I do number 4 and things like that. In that way, I try to divide it again and make it easy to find the templates to get when I'm going around. Yep. Here I try to show you how we have at this service disk from Unicenter. Here I try to show how we integrate to that and using this name conversion again. That's from one of our actions. So, for example, here this is Danish. Sorry, but that's the priority. So I mapped that over. I used the item description and the comment, trigger comment also. I provide over to the. What I'm doing here is actually just sending an email to the service disk system, and it will create a ticket with this information in it. What I do here is actually I make a link in the systems. So in the service disk system, they can just click on this link, and they will go back to Zabbix and can see directly in Zabbix, and can see the event in Zabbix. In that way, I try to connect the two systems. What I do, my main problem was how did I put the information about main system and subsystem over to the service desk system. And what I'm doing is I'm down in the item description, I put these words in. So the service disk system are reading these, it's using these words to know which variable it have to put into its case or issue. But I put these in, which is Danby, which is a main system, and I put that in, which is our subsystem again. And here we have actually a screen dump from this service disk system. And you can see here we have the main system, the subsystem. We have the priority here. We have this is the trigger descriptions actually. I put some time in when it starts and what's inside the trigger. Here I have the link. So in this way it was making it really easy for the service disk people to go into Zabbix before they were complaining about all these menus and things like that. What I also did was I made only a few actions so far. Well, we are a small firm, so we can do that. But I have made this generally action. What I do is I put this word in, which is whacked in Danish, but translated it's actually operation people on call. What I just look for is this word in a trigger. Then I will make a SMS to this group. And I will also make a message to a mail to the service desk and make a ticket at the same time. But in this way, it's really easy for me to navigate and really fast for me to go around and see, oh, this trigger have to go to the operation or people on call, and it has also to make a ticket. So that's an easy way to do that. Of course, I needed to update the trigger description also if I wanted to put these area into it. What I also was facing when I was doing this integration with the server disk was I had to consider, well, which triggers should go to the service disk and to the people on call. And in this way, I had to split actually the triggers into what I call a business and more technical. More technical is most of the OS things or memory things or whatever you're looking for, CPU, and a lot of them you don't need and of course don't want to go to send. But the business was mostly triggers from the end systems. So I was looking at what trigger did I have for main systems, and I passed them through, and that's what I would call the business things. Of course, some infrastructure or more technical triggers are also going to the people in operation on call. It's of course if a file system is full and things like that. So I think you have heard this from some of your users. There are too many menus in Zabbix, and some words from Haddock which should not be pronounced here. That's right. So, but the way I was trying to handle this, this is rather simple also, maybe a lot of you have done like this also, I think. But I made a main screen, which is covering of course my infrastructure and button down here. But I have I list all the main system I have. So you were seeing this before, DanBib, and maybe sometimes I'm reading the subsystem under. So I have an icon for all the main systems, also some of the middleware systems and some other things. But again, I'm taking the information from my list, from my CMDB, and I put it into this. It's rather simple. And what I also do is, for every main system, I make links. I make links first. I'll make links to the documentation. We have a wiki. If I have made some graphs or some subsystem screens, I also put them in here, because a lot of time I didn't remember myself. I was running around in the menus, and I didn't. Of course, I can go over and look over under my screen menus and see what screens I have about. I have a screen about this main system, but here in this way, the user of this system or the service disk people or the operation, they can rather fast see, oh, well, there's some statistic about this system. Then can go in there. And what I recently also discovered was that putting up a link of the events, what I'm doing here is I'm just, every system main system have its own group. So what I've just linked to is just the triggers, the event screen, but inserted on the group name. So the person who have this system, which is responsible for this system, he only needs to go there and click on that, and then he will get a view for a default set. He will get a view of the events from the last 14 days. But the only thing is, I only put the group into this. So we will only get the events which have been connected with this group, which is the main system. Hope you understand that. So what I do, in that way, I'm using this main screen. I'm using Zabbix as an index for both the wiki and other documentation tool, because also a lot of time when I was facing problems, I was facing a problem with finding documentation for this system and things like that. So I tried to put this into this main screen and do it fast for people. If I get people if I get people used to use Zabbix for every situation, well, I have come a long way on the road to get Zabbix into the company. Yep. So that's so what the main thing, the main 3 ways we are trying to navigate, we use to navigate around in Zabbix in our firm is, well, it's at least the way I try to present for people is either with this main screen, the dashboard, of course, you can put your links in there for your favorite graphs and things like that, and then the search function. A lot of time you always need to look at one host and you can't remember what it is, just use the search function and you have access to larger stages, the screen, host screens and things like that. So I keep trying to get people to use these approaches when they have to find around in the system. The main screen, the dashboard, or using search. What I also was, I'll go back here. What I also was trying, I have had some internal workshops for the users, and I also try here just to focus on main menus to keep it simple and keep into core. What they should start with look at, and that's so. In this workshop, I focused most on larger stages, of course, the dashboard, events, and screens. In that way, I try to keep it simple for people in the start at least, then they can extend later. Actually, the workshops I've done too, I will put them on a public site soon, so people can use it. It's mainly just a collection of screen dumps, but I think it would be nice to you can do a talk over that. We have this screen dump and you can do your own talk on it. I hope somebody can use it. The other thing about the main screen here is also, I was facing this, one of the person in operation, he was complaining one day, he was getting a lot of alerts where there was some sand problems. And he was getting a lot. You have this huge list of triggers in the dashboard, and he didn't see the main problem, which was the sand. There was a main, actually, a disaster trigger, but he didn't see it, and he was getting a lot of SMSs, and he could not see what was going on. So he was trying to troubleshoot a lot on different hosts instead of see the root causes of the problem. And what in that way I was thinking a little about it, sorry. Again, I was going back to this main screen actually, because if it's an infrastructure problem, you will have the alert down here. And in that way, even that everything is red up here, you will also see, okay, when it's some infrastructure thing here, of course it will pop up in the system over. And in that way, it's the good thing about having an overview here, it can tell you maybe it can address what the main cause of the problem is. Well, overview, easy to show. This is rather easy to find around, I suppose. It's one of our system and documentation. Well, it's not easy to find around, but going a step deeper under one of the icons from the main system, I normally make what I call an application screen, which is actually what I call an application screen. What I do there is normally I try to find the person who is responsible for that. system and try to find do we have a nice drawing, and I put that in behind, and also I put up a logical host here. Well, maybe I should drop. That's what I add the application and documentation as background. Quick application overview, as I say here. The good thing about this is that even that it's not easy to get an overview here, but if something fail, for example, Oracle down here or some of the systems, you can easy here see what is the problem. And the only thing I have done is put in this drawing as a background, put on all the hosts. So that's rather easy. And even more easy, if you don't have the time to do this, just do a host group, and you can get in the map. You can get this auto discover, auto display all the hosts in this group. That's also an easy way to do it, and it's more easy to keep the configuration the same way. But one of the remarks I was getting about this. In the start, people were just, okay, well, this look nice, well, we'll not use it. But there was some major problem, and even the manager, he was glad for this documentation, because he could easily, in Zabbix, click down on this, and he was having the main documentation of the system, and he could see, okay, we have problems there and there. And what I was also trying to add here again, I just make an icon, which is just, well, this is an icon with a Firefox on, but that's just to indicate that it's links. So the links I have on the upper level, sometimes I put them down here also. So it's easy to go around here. And some of the events I have, is not connected to one single host. It's more actually it's more one of the systems subsystems. There's main problems with that. Then I have made the logical service a host here, and then if there's some triggers on the general level, they will be shown here. That was tried to explain here. Add application host, yeah. What I do mostly also, when I was doing this, sometimes these drawings, background drawings, have a lot of colors. So what I'm doing is mostly just to make it into white and black, and that's make it so you will see the host, which is actually the most important here. Another thing I was doing, try to put some structure into it, was I was making again, this is a map, but I was making a headline icon. So it's actually an icon with no drawing in it. It's just a headline. You can put your headline in the label on that icon. In this way, I could put around headlines here as I loved. And the second thing I was doing was making what you call a separator icons, which is just actually this. It's just what you call that in English. It's just a line, actually, yeah. It's just a line. And actually here you have a line, and in the label you can just put your headline again. And in this way, I just, well, if I don't have a background, I just want to add the host, but in this way I can easily put these headlines and separators around in the map, and at least get some organization anyway. It's rather fastest. So I just, if I need a new group of, I have a group of server and I get a new one that could be whatever, mail servers or so. I just add a new separation line here and put the headline in, and then you can easily see, okay, these hosts have some kind of in common. And sometime in the label, I also put about is a SQL, a Unicenter, or whatever host function this function, or whatever function this host have. Another view here. Also, that's our SAN setup. It's a quick way to. Again, I just drew using a drawing, and I just put the host in. Another thing, as Tobias was talking about, make some overview screens, so you have overviews, at least some graph about your main systems. And I think if you're trying to put Zabbix into an environment and you're competing against Nagios and something like that, don't focus on infrastructure thing. Focus on trying to get data out of your main systems. What I'm doing here is actually just take some data out from some log files. I'm just taking out how many transactions and the average time for these transactions from this log file, and I present that. The management are going to love these. They're going to focus on these. They're not going to focus on how much memory is back in your server. Talking about your users, actually that's your customers, I think. And I think that's the main important thing, to understand your users, who is going to use your Zabbix installation. It's not only you and your colleague maybe, it's well, with the chair, they maybe will use the most functions, but also support operators. I try here to list what they use. They use dashboards, main screens, overview screens, service stage integration to this service. We have some application systems specialists. They mostly will focus on application and service screen, and so they will look in this main dashboard, main screen I was showing before. They were looking on their system, which they are responsible for, their main system. And they will mostly focus on what the events or statistics for that system. But as I have already put that links into the screen I was showing before, they will address that really easy. And that's the same with product owner and management and so on. And it's not, so Zabbix is not only isolated to technical people. And what I see my work in this, I see myself as a kind of facilitator here. I'm a kind of central person which come with a tool, and people can try to ask me, or I try to help people with getting the most use of that tool in a good way. I'm not just a technical person. I'm also kind of having this, as trying to provide the best use of the application for them. And if you have, well, you should really try to get the developers into partners. One of this thing I was remarking at the conference last year was several presentations were talking about how they not succeeded with only have the operation people to put into the counters and the items, but more to get the developer themselves to begin present the tool for them and how they can get data in. It's really easy. Just use Zabbix sender or user parameters or whatever. You get them to make a script for you to get some data in. And that was what I was discovering, that certainly they by themselves was beginning to using and making items themselves. Of course, in a communication with me, but that's what I was meaning with active people, as I was addressing before. They were beginning to do the drive themselves, and they loved to see, for the first time, they could see in production time when do they make smart code and when did they not make a smart code. Yep. Just to address, I will stop soon. Just to address some of the other special things we were doing. We did have actually we were having an old server, and then there with an old application on, and then somebody crazy person was changing that server to a new fast hardware, and suddenly we would discover a lot of problem with our Oracle, and we could see, well, there had to be something with the amount of connection which was going into Oracle. Well, our database administrator, he had this Oracle tool, but it was more focused on real-time monitoring. A really expensive tool, but so the problem he was having, he couldn't really see in historic what was going on. So I was having, we were making a Python script. We was looking down in the listener.log, which just listen all the sessions which are going into Zabbix. Oracle. And we were just looking at that file and group the different applications actually, and we were making a default in the down, which was just some other this is actually the top 6 applications, and then there was this default just showing the other connection. And this way we have a nice graph of who are making most connection into the Oracle. I'm gonna publish this script soon. There's some bugs in it, so it's not on the net yet. Another thing that you also can use trying to put Zabbix in is you can use this as what we'll be facing several times is that we have a problem, and for example here we were having a firewall problem. Suddenly we're discovering a lot of to our DMC, a lot of packet lost and things like that. We could see that was from the firewall log. We could see that there was some memory was getting low. Well, some memory eating was happening, and soon we find it was this memblocks, and we find the UID to get it. And in 5 minutes, we were having this graph, and we was could put triggers on this, and in this way we could we were having two major downtime before we were seeing this, and after that, when we were putting that into a trending graph, we could make trigger and react on that very fast, and we could kind of this is actually proper mention. We could prevent this from happening again because we were getting a trigger when it was near to happen. In this case, it was just an upgrade of the firmware would help. But again, what I love is that it was really easy to make the trigger and SMX actions to the operation in a really fast way. Some of the other thing is rather fast. I was implementing a logs solution, but after the presentation today, I'm going to switch to log press and some other things. Yeah, this is just based on RSLog, and we are a small firm again, so that's may work okay. But mostly I'm just using RSLog, and I know the host. I'm forwarding all events which have it would have the severity of error and further up to a central syslog server. At that, I do some filtering. There's some log message which will repeat and will make a lot of of false alarms, but I just filter them. And I put the message which is not filtered down in a script, and I send it to Zabbix with the Zabbix Center. And that way I was really we did not have any central log and alerts. Actually, this was taking a few days to make this, and we were having a solution with log monitoring. And so if some of these things, if it's not, so basically what the script is just put the name down for Zabbix Center and the message. And then we'll get alert. If it's not filtered here, we'll just get alert, and we can look into that. Yeah, well, another thing was I didn't have the time to get the CMDB imported into Zabbix, so I was doing this fast hack here. I was just making a script, which is just, I was getting from the CMDB, I was getting an export down in a file, and I just do the grep on the host name. And that way I can just click on a host and I can see what the heck is this host doing. Even that we're a small firm that's around 500 devices and even have been there 3 years, I cannot remember what a lot of pros do. So future, more application monitoring. Some other things, crazy thing we're doing is we have some of our testing for our web applications are based on Selenium, and we actually have some Python scripts to do that. So one of my next step is to use some of these scripts to do deep web monitoring things. I would also like to pay attention to this tutorial things that the guy down here have made. And the workshops I have made, I will also put up here. Yep, okay. That was about all.